It's common to extend the presence of a functional triad by moving between its root position and its first inversion. This necessarily requires the bass voice to travel by a third. To provide the bass with motion that is smoother or more melodic, we can insert a passing 6/4 chord between this transition. A passing 6/4 chord gets its name from the motion of the bass voice. As the bass voice moves from the root of the original chord to the third of that same chord, or vice versa, it can pass through the note in between. We can then harmonize that in-between passing note, treating the bass pitch as the fifth of the triad will continue to build above it. Let's look at how the voice leading works as we fill out the remainder of that passing 6/4, as well as the arrival chord that comes after. We will enable the smoothest possible voice leading around passing 6/4 chords if we begin with a starting chord that includes a doubled root. From there, the best thing to do is to begin by writing out the bass activity for each of the three different chords that will be involved. If the goal is to move from a root position triad to its first inversion, simply walk the bass up by step from that root into the passing tone and then up by step again into the chordal third. Alternatively, if we're starting with the first inversion chord and moving to its root position variant, go the other way. Walk the bass down from the third through the passing tone and arriving at the root. The next thing you'll want to do is engineer what's called a voice exchange between the completed bass voice and one of the three upper voices. If the bass voice began on the root of the initial chord, find the voice that begins on the chord's third. Just as the bass walked up by step from the root, eventually reaching the third, take that other voice and walk it down from the third through the passing tone into the root of the finishing chord. Conversely, if the bass began on the third, take one of the upper voices that began on the root and mirror the bass motion on the way to the third. Note that this voice exchange results in contrary motion between the bass and the exchanging upper voice. Note also that the bass and the trading upper voice will encounter the same passing tone during the 6/4. Next, find the voice that held the fifth of the original chord. Let that voice sustain its pitch throughout this motion. Note that it will serve as the root of the passing 6/4. Finally, the remaining voice should begin on the root of the initial triad. During the passing 6/4, simply have that voice step down a half step and then return up to its original pitch in the final chord. For now, we will strictly limit the chords we will enhance through the use of passing 6/4s. In major keys, we'll permit passing 6/4 chords between 1 and 1/6 chords, or between 4 and 4/6 chords. In minor keys, we'll only use passing 6/4 chords to embellish motions between 1 and 1/6. Remember, the chords both before and after that middle passing tone will have the same Roman numeral. It's just that one of them will be in root position and the other in first inversion. The passing 6/4 that occurs between 1 and 1/6 will be a 5/6/4. Note that this 5/6/4 needs to be a major chord. That means in minor we'll need to raise the third of the passing 5/6/4 to create a leading tone. The passing 6/4 that occurs between 4 and 4/6 chords, again only used in major keys, will be a 1/6/4. In later theory study, when we discuss how to borrow notes from outside our original key, it will become possible to use passing 6/4 chords to tastefully embellish other chords like 2 or 5, but we'll wait on that for the time being. Here are a couple of examples that include passing 6/4 chords. So to summarize passing 6/4 chords, these chords serve as embellishing harmonies between a given triad that transitions between root position and first inversion. The embellishment is created by inserting a passing tone in the bass between the inversions and harmonizing that passing tone in the upper three voices, treating the bass as the fifth of the passing chord. All voices move smoothly through the passing motion. One of the other voices moves in contrary motion against the bass, participating in a voice exchange. The upper voice that started out on the chordal fifth retains its pitch all the way through. The remaining upper voice will move down by a half step during the passing chord and will then return back up to its original pitch. For now, the only chords we'll embellish with a passing 6-4 chord are 1 to 1-6 chords in both major and minor, and 4 to 4-6 chords in major only.